Indiana Jones from Machine Games, the team behind Wolfenstein and Bethesda with Todd Howard, have created an Indiana Jones simulator coming to Xbox Game Pass and PC on December 9th, 2024. There are high expectations for this iconic character and playing in a first-person perspective. I had hands-on with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Let's see if it's worth the hype.
Nice view.
Bethesda sent me to San Francisco to get hands-on with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I got a full hour and a half of playtime on the latest build of the game on PC, having access to 2 main mission areas. The preview began in Marshall College, where Indiana Jones is a professor, and there was a break-in with Tony Todd, one of the main antagonists. My very first impression with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is its striking similarities to Bethesda games like Dishonored and a very curious resemblance to the early 2010s game Thief. Playing as Indy, you'll do a lot of skulking and exploring around, picking up items that will flesh out the story, or finding things in the world to interact with, like doors, windows, cabinets, and other small puzzle set pieces. The production value is very high, with Indy interacting with each and every object with his hands, picking up things and looking at them, opening doors and unlocking locks, where typically first-person games would just automate this and leave out the hand animations. This adds a strong sense of immersion. As a fan of the classic movies, you really do feel like you're walking around in the shoes of Indiana Jones and interacting with the world in the 1940s. Early on in our gameplay feature, we are introduced to the hand-to-hand combat, which has guard, blocking, parries, and offensive punches, and normally first-person combat can look or feel very clunky, and most of the time, the first-person combat felt very impactful with camera shakes, loud audio cues, and blocks of bone-crunching punches. And in one instance, I punched a guard as he was turning around, and the way his head spun, it looked quite painful, and I had physical reactions in the room while I was playtesting the game. Searching around the college and seeing Indiana Jones pick up and speak about relics in the museum, it helps establish the timeline and his knowledge of these ancient civilizations and history. Troy Baker does an incredible job of voicing Harrison Ford, and since the character you're playing on screen in the cinematics or third-person segments feels so lifelike, you forget that it's Troy Baker. It really does feel like a young Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones.
I said, who is Father Ventura?
Going into his office felt like a superpower shot of nostalgia as he interacts with his collections. All of the footage shown here was provided by Machine Games, so we didn't get to capture our own footage, and they missed a part where Indiana Jones is getting his suitcase ready, and there's a note in there that brought so much nostalgia and choked me up, that just was so perfect and harkened back to characters from the previous movies and tones that we loved back in the day. But everyone wants to know, how is the gameplay for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? Since a lot of it will be skulking around in stealth or sneaking behind guards or discovering pathways through buildings or ancient tombs, one thing that was strikingly missing from this 1.5 hour playthrough was we got no big cinematic set pieces to play whatsoever. We were given free range to a couple of large mission areas like the Vatican or Giza, but none of them included large, big set-piece moments like this. One of the mechanics for climbing, as you'll see Indy in third person quite infrequently, only in times when he's mantling or using his whip, is a stamina bar, which I can assume will be upgraded over time from the original 6 bars of stamina. You can use objects to pick them up or throw them to distract guards or change their walking paths, only to knock them out. This is a feature we saw a long time ago in games like The Last of Us. Picking up makeshift weapons in the world and use them to knock out guards is very satisfying. There's no choker or sleeper hold for guards, so you can't bring them down silently. And typically guards won't hear you even if you do a big, huge bone-cracking body fall to the ground. You can pick up the bodies and hide them so that patrolling guards can't find them or be alerted, but one of the mechanics in the game is to try not to alert the guards. So If there is a threat level alert where guards will attack your position, you'll have to fight them off. A cool surprise if you're looking around is the instruction manual books and comics you can find in the world, and these unlock permanent perks that you can use with your currency to make Indiana Jones do more damage, have more health, or one of my favorites is one called the Lucky Hat. This is a second wind mechanic. When you're knocked down by a soldier or guard, you can crawl over to your hat on the ground, press X, and you'll see this animation.
It ain't a walk in the park.
This gives you another chance to take out enemies that bested you. Each of the levels we played are slightly open with 2 or 3 branching paths, allowing you to find your way around, or parkour, or stealth past guards, or taking them out one at a time. Combat is definitely recommended, but it can feel very satisfying to get the upper hand by sneaking, distracting, or knocking them out from behind. There are collectibles and pickups like money, health items, makeshift weapons, and upgrades that can make looking around every corner pretty enjoyable, but a lot of the time you'll be skulking around and exploring nooks and crannies. This can make Indiana Jones and the Great Circle feel a bit dull at times. If you're looking for a high adventure game, some of the moments might be slowed down with pacing with stealth and exploration. But this first nighttime level in the Vatican was really focused on subterfuge. Using the whip in combat, you can easily aim at the hands, legs, or face, and then the enemies will stagger with physics-based animations, and you can use that time to close the gap on them, start punching, or wait for them to make a wide punch so you can take them down. You won't be able to pat down or loot enemies as they fall unless they have a key for a door. I know that some of this combat in first person does look clunky, and I thought the same thing, but when you're playing it, it really does feel satisfying. The second level that we had access to was one of the biggest, and this was the area in Giza. This had a huge archaeological dig site. While playing, I looked around the room and half of the players were in totally different locations than I was. I chose to go down into the major dig site and try and get a freight elevator up and running by connecting 3 generators, and within these 3 locations, there were a ton of guards to take out. Some I did with stealth, some I just straight up popped them with the revolver or tripped them with my whip and punched them out. And the revolver seems a bit limited in combat with just a handful of bullets, and you can find more ammo in the world, but if you want to be sparing with your revolver ammo as it alerts enemies. I don't have any footage of gunplay, but you can pick up M1 Garands, German micro submachine guns and pistols, and you can use them until the ammo runs out. But shooting is all hip firing with a zoom. There is no aim down sights, gunplay. This isn't Wolfenstein, and I was hoping even if you wanted to go guns blazing as Indiana Jones, that you would have an aim down sights mechanic, but the hip firing mechanic worked really well and I enjoyed it a lot. And I wanted to test that guns blazing mechanic by just starting an all-out 5-alarm shootout. I mowed down several soldiers until I ran out of ammo, and it let me push X to use the gun as a billy club, and I beat down 2 soldiers until the gun broke into pieces and Indy had to throw it onto the ground. Indiana Jones doesn't get into a lot of firefights in the movie, so sneaking around and using wit to accomplish side quests feels pretty satisfying, but could possibly come off as a bit dull. And for me, some of the crouching and sneaking around can get a bit tired. There are side quests in the mission areas that you can take on, like collecting items and bringing them back for characters, or solving smaller puzzles outside of the main quest. And in my playtime of the preview, I didn't even get through most of the main quest in Giza, as I was finding locations and things to do around the pyramids. Indy can also put on a disguise which will slow the alert to the enemies as you're walking around. This is pretty cool as he sort of slips it over his head and pats down his arms, and you see his arm animations with the new outfit on, but the disguise doesn't really do a whole lot. In fact, the alert level for enemies is only slightly, almost unnoticeably slowed down. And just walking around the dig site with soldiers in open areas alerted their attention no matter what I was wearing and started fights. It was pretty frustrating to walk by a vehicle road on my way to an objective, and anytime a soldier saw me, Indiana Jones would have to start a fight in open public. Using the whip to climb up and around areas so that you can access collectibles or mission objectives feels very satisfying. You can even use the whip to get out of trouble and hide and let things cool down. But the best part of the whip is definitely combat, and it feels and looks satisfying. I had to remind myself that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is not a Wolfenstein shooter, that it's really more of an action-adventure Indiana Jones simulator. The 1.5 hour preview went fairly quickly, and I enjoyed the immersion and feeling of being Indiana Jones. But some of the pacing issues concern me with all the sneaking around or looking for items just so you can unlock a gate to progress to the next area. It's possible that these 2 missions that they had us play were focused on that mechanic part of the game, because we saw none of the big exploration. We didn't go into major Incan or Asian tombs or artifact locations. From the 2 major gameplay trailers that have been shown in 2023 and 2024, along with the preview information that Machine Games explained there are 6 main locations throughout the world where we'll visit, but we didn't get hands-on with that. Fans expecting Indiana Jones and the Great Circle to be more like the next Tomb Raider or Uncharted game on the Xbox platform will be surprised that this is more like a mix of Dishonored, Thief, and the Tomb gameplay we saw in Bethesda's Skyrim. Troy Baker's portrayal of Indiana Jones really makes it feel like you're in the movie and that you are playing as Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones, which is really great for decade-long fans of the franchise. Makes me wonder if newer generations will resonate with a Harrison Ford Indiana Jones the same way some of us older veteran gamers will. I'm sure there is a lot more of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle for us to see. Possibly there'll be another gameplay trailer as we get closer to launch, but what I was able to play here looks very promising. Pacing is the major issue, and if you're not into sneaking, stealth, or interacting with ancient artifacts, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle might not be for you. The more I see of this game, the more I'm excited. The initial reveal is good, but the more I've seen, I understand what Machine Games and Bethesda are trying to bring. It's a truly unique take on not just first-person games, but something truly original for Indiana Jones.
That little guy packed a punch.
This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for checking out this video. It was a pretty cool privilege to go to San Francisco and play Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And my time with it, I had a really good time, and meeting the devs, Machine Games, and the team at Bethesda was very, very cool. We were able to play the game at like a 4K 60. They said ray tracing wasn't available yet on this build. It was coming for the Xbox and PC. I hope that's true. We'll wait to see, but it's a different type of game. And the similarities to Dishonored and especially Thief was the thing that really like resonated with me. And I'm not a fan of the Thief games, so it's not really a super compliment, but if you like those sort of games, it could really be something you could look forward to. But I was really under the assumption, as many others were, that Indiana Jones was going to be like an Uncharted Tomb Raider style game, but in first person. And no, they're not going to change the perspective of the game. This is what they want. And one thing I will really praise about the game is, yes, you do feel like you're Indiana Jones. You feel like you're there. You feel like you're in 1943. Well, if you ended up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. You can also further support the channel by hitting the join button below. And if you do that, I'll get you early access to videos before they go up. And you can also get monthly merch giveaways on the channel. So much more. Check out the Patreon. We have that as well. Also, we have the Ecstasy podcast, so we'll talk more about the upcoming games and some of the impressions that we're getting from those. And that's every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And thank you for checking that out on the channel as well. Let me know what you think about Indiana Jones from this footage that I cut together. Well, are you excited about it? I want to know your opinion. What do you think they got right? And what do you think they got wrong? Let me know there. And as always, please be nice.